Hello, my friends. If you think the Crumbleys and the Laundries have nothing in common or in contrast, then you ought to stay tuned to hear the research I did on this topic. The Crumbleys have a son, Ethan Crumbley, born in 2006. On November 30, 2021, he killed 4 schoolmates and hurt 7 others with a gun his parents bought for him as a gift. The Laundries have a son, Brian Laundrie, born in 1997. He killed his fiancée Gabby Petito either on August 27th or 29th, 2021, with blunt force to the head and then manual strangulation. He killed himself probably on September 13, 2021, with a gun. And how about the Utah double homicides of Kylie and Crystal in August 2021 when Brian was in the area? Police has ruled out Brian, but not the private investigator the woman's family hired. Until it was found out why Brian killed Gabby, I will always be suspicious about Brian's possible involvement in Kylie and Crystal's deaths. Why? Because couples who argue and fight don't kill one another after just 1 or 2 arguments and fights. They keep going back and forth many times and over many years. One of my theories of why Brian killed Gabby is Gabby has some life-threatening information about Brian. She brought that information out in their argument, which triggered Brian to kill Gabby. One life-threatening information could be Brian was responsible for Utah double murders, or at least Gabby somehow questioned him about it. Of course, this is my pure wild speculation. So, what proceeded before these killers' actions? On November 29, Ethan was searching for ammo in school, and the school notified the Crumbleys. On November 30, Ethan drew pictures of violence in his math worksheet, and the school called his parents to school for a meeting and asked them to arrange counseling for Ethan within 48 hours. Unfortunately, Ethan acted before 48 hours. Actually, only a moment after the meeting, he killed 4 and hurt 7 members of his high school. On August 12th, a third party called 911 on Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito in Utah for seemingly a man slapping a girl, but police instead deemed Gabby as aggressor and Brian as victim, and in the end decided not to charge Gabby, but was about to give her a domestic violence ticket. Upon hearing that, Gabby started to break down and begging the officer for any traffic ticket or parking ticket instead of a domestic violence ticket. She was very upset. She was crying. She was begging. That's when the officer decided to call his supervisor, and he also checked on Utah legislature's definition about domestic violence, bodily injury, assault, that kind of terms, and he was able to find a way not give her a ticket. So in the end, Gabby was not charged. Gabby was not given a domestic violence ticket. Domestic violence will not go down anywhere on Gabby's record. Instead, the arranged a hotel room for Brian, and Gabby can stay in the van for August 12th night. Here, listen to the 911 call and the police discussion of Gabby as the aggressor.
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
Bad at all. So I just phoned with one of those two witnesses, and I recorded it. You want me to tell you what he said? Yeah. Real quick. Do you mind hanging with him for a minute? Yeah. So, get away from both of them. So, he said that he never saw the male strike the female. He saw the male trying to lock her out of the vehicle. She even told us that he was trying to lock her out, told her to go take a walk, so that she was trying to get in. She eventually couldn't get in and actually clawed her way in through the driver's door. He says, I don't understand why she's doing that. Well, I think it's because it was the only door that wasn't locked that she could get through. She's trying to get in over him. He's trying to disengage from her. I guess he hung her backpack on the back probably so she'd have her shit so that he didn't have to engage with her. Everything she's saying is the same thing. I haven't heard what he said, but if that's what he said, it's also what the witness is saying. The witness says, I never saw him hit her. I saw him shove her, but I couldn't tell if it was an aggression against her or a defense against her as far as her, being the aggressor. So at this point, unless the guy's screaming that he needs to go to jail and did something to this girl, it sounds to me like she is the primary aggressor.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with her being the primary aggressor is in an instance of domestic assault, be it a male or be it a female, we shall arrest. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to go to jail. We can do a citation if it meets one of three criterion, which one of them is that we can ensure that they're not going to further risk each other's safety. But the problem with that is they live in the same vehicle.
From August 17 to August 23rd, Brian flew home in Florida while Gabby stayed in a hotel in Utah. While many are puzzled by this, I think this is a temporary separation of Brian from Gabby, ordered by Brian Laundrie's parents after Brian told his parents the story of Gabby as an aggressor and himself as a victim. On August 27 or August 29, depending on who you are talking to, Brian killed Gabby with blunt force to the head and manual strangulation. Here is what happened to them. Ethan Crumbley was apprehended by police on the scene. Brian Laundrie drove the van from Wyoming to Florida without Gabby. He evaded police by parking the van in a park instead of his parents' driveway for most of the time until the van was spotted by the law enforcement in his parents' driveway. By then, he already had some quality time with his sister and parents in a park. He also obtained a lawyer and he managed leaving the house on September 13th. And his bonds and notebook confession to killing Gabby was found on October 20th. Ethan Crumbley used a gun bought by his parents as a present to kill his schoolmates. Brian Laundrie used a gun to evade police. Here is a description of the gun in his autopsy report. Pictures show his own gun was left in his room. Reports say his parents have a collection of 10 guns and one is missing. Did he steal his parents' gun? Unlikely. Did he borrow his parents' gun? Probably. And here is the report. Laundrie's remains were found along with a revolver. When the Laundrie family handed over their firearms to the FBI in September, one was missing. It is not clear if this is believed to be the gun used in Brian's suicide. And here is the contrast. The Crumbleys were charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter because their son used a gun they bought for him as a gift. They are in cuffs, chains, and in courts and in jail, all that. The Laundries were not even questioned for why they provided a gun for their son while his fiancée was missing, or how did his son have a gun on him, whose gun is that, while he was evading police. And they maintained an attitude of Gabby's missing is Gabby's own fault. They knew by September 14th their son is already dead, and they stayed inside and silent for 40 days and nights while people, dogs, and machines were searching for their son in the park. They were not even questioned if they were telling the truth when they said they did not find their son on September 14th and 15th when they went in the park. They were not questioned then why they walked right to where their son's remains are on October 20, shortly after they were in the park. They were not questioned why their attorney said on September 14th, 2 young lives have lost their lives. Nobody else knew that at that time. And listen to their attorney confirming that Brian Laundrie's parents were looking for Brian on September 14th and 15th in the park, and he said they did not find Brian. It's very likely he was lying, because if they did not find Brian on September 14th and 15th, why they could find it easily on October 20th, shortly after they walked into the park. He confirmed that they went to the park on September 14th and 15th, I think because he knew there probably was surveillance of them going to the park, but there was no surveillance beyond that point of where they went and what they did and what they found or not found. So he could not lie about they going to the park, but he could lie about whether they found Brian or not on that day. To me, at least, they should be questioned whether they find Brian on September 14th and 15th, if Brian was dead at that time.
September 14th, when I first went on video, I said there are 2 families here that have suffered a great tragedy. There are 2 young people that have now lost their lives.
One more thing about that, and I promise I will let it go. Did your clients go out to the reserve prior to yesterday morning on their own at any time?
Yes, they did. Back in early September, I shouldn't say early September, mid-September, which would have been the 14th and the 15th.
Were they there with Brian or with authorities?
No, they were there on their own. That was the day after Brian had went for the hike and didn't come home.
And what did they do there?
They walked around the trails looking for Brian initially.
Is this when they picked up the car?
On the second day, they picked up the car, correct.
Did they find any items or anything that led them to believe that he was out there at that time?
Beside the car? No.
So now you see the common and the contrast the Crumbleys and the Laundries have. The contrast makes me question, are we living in a society there is fairness and justice, or fairness and justice are just ideal ideas we have? Am I the only one who has such questions? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Take care and talk to you later.